Konnichiwa!
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of
Things we do to graduate college.
I'm Paulina.
And I'm Miranda.
And on today's topic, we have the Asian financial crisis of 1997.
Yo soy de mero Japón.
And today we have Marcus and David to give us a head start.
Okay, so let's talk about the Asian crisis, also known as the Tiger crisis.
First of all, do you like soup?
Yes, but which one?
It's called Tom Jong-un, Kim Jong-un soup. Has a real name.
I haven't heard of it.
You haven't
before.
heard? Well, fun fact. They call this crisis also like the soup, the Tom Jong-un crisis, because this comes from the popular Thai hot and sour soup, and that reflects the severity and spices of the economic downturn.
I didn't know. But
Yes,
you know which countries were involved?
Yeah, mainly was Korea, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand.
And do you know the causes?
No, not really, but what was the problem?
Everybody was kung fu fighting.
Okay, so imagine everybody was rich, so they were victims of their own success. So let's say they create like a speculative bubble on the real estate and the stock market.
Looks very interesting.
A lot of money in the market, right? This is not normal. So their population saw a rapid growth and improvements in living standards, increasing by 15%. This is insane.
Right, so that's when the crisis officially began on July 1997, because that's when the government decided to abandon the fixed exchange of the Thai baht, resulting in a devaluation of the currency, which triggered a lot of financial panic.
So how did they resolve it?
Well, as in many other crises, you know who had to intervene, the IMF. They gave bailout packages to the countries, and I have here the exact data of how many billions they had to give. For example, the total bailout funds provided by the IMF amounted to around 40 billion to South Korea, 17 billion to Thailand, and 43 billion to Indonesia. Can you believe it?
It's insane.
I know, can you imagine that amount of money? It's crazy. Well, over time, these measures, along with regional cooperation and global economic recovery, they helped to resolve the crisis, and well, I think they're doing good now.
Okay, so this is really interesting. So to finish with our program, we have our spokesperson, Juan Carlos, with a special guest to talk about a little bit of this with his point of view.
We're here with our special guest, Carlos Meraz. Do you believe that there are still obvious consequences of this crisis in some countries inside or outside Asia?
The crisis in Asia was that in the 90s, they were very strong. Global wise, they were the strongest. You could say one of the strongest economies in the world, because everybody was leaning on Asia, because they were so well organized. The interest rates were high, the production was high, the employment was high, and everybody was buying from Asia. So what happened is when the bubble burst in the 90s, it caused a devaluation. Also, the whole world is tied together. Yes. in a global exchange. So it's difficult because everybody is suffering the consequences.
How does the crisis of the 90s in Asia compare with the Latin America economic crisis?
The way to compare it is to learn from it.
The last question would be, you, Carlos Meraz, what lessons can be drawn from the Asian crisis in terms of financial regulations and corporate governance?
The lesson that we learn is that we need to have more study. China and Asia, they were doing giant volumes of merchandise and services, and you know it just blew up. So I think that what you're asking is that what we learned from the global crisis is to minimize any risk in commerce.
Okay.
So the only way to do that is to study it. You know that information is power.